Welcome to the WP SEO Show, brought to you by SEO Hive, your proactive white label SEO partner. The WP SEO Show is all about talking WordPress and SEO, from optimizations, structures, setups, and plugins. We explore how to make your WordPress website perform better in the search engines. Here are your hosts, Pete Everett and Jeff Patch.
Hello and welcome to the WP SEO Show. Today we are continuing our talk and we are going to discuss figuring out the priorities that will move the needle for your client. But first, introduce ourselves. I'm Jeff and I'm with
Pete. Hey.
Oh, I should have set you up better on that one. Sorry.
It was that moment of, is he going to say my name or am I going to say my name? Who's saying my name? Does somebody say my name?
I'm trying to learn the old fancy radio introduction, but I'm not sure I've got it down yet. So anyway, we're with SEO Hive and we are talking about growth strategies. It's kind of the topic du jour or the month. I don't know how to say that in French, but
du jour. I'm not sure. You'd need to know the French for topic as well.
Yeah, you're right. Which French for soup? Because isn't it soup du jour? Is French? Is soup also
the French for soup? I know bits of French. I like going to France quite a lot, so I do know bits of French. But So soup is the word for soup, spelt slightly differently, but that is soup is soup. But I don't know what the word for topic is.
Well, nobody does, which is probably why we don't use that as a euphemism.
You say it's sujet du jour, like subject. Sujet du jour.
Yeah, doesn't work. Got to stick with soup du jour or topic du jour.
Well, no, yeah. Sujet du jour is instead of topic. It's sujet is not soup. If there's anybody French listening to this
is ridiculous. Can we record a podcast?
Welcome to How to Not Learn French with Pete and Jeff.
And this is why next week Pete will do the introduction. But to the topic at hand. Indeed. We are expanding this topic. So, we've been talking for years and years now really about care plans and recurring revenue. And I mean, there's a million different ways to word this, but one of the things that has picked up steam lately, just kind of naturally in our own topics, and then I'm seeing other people out there, other agencies and marketers and stuff talk about it. And it's the term growth plans or marketing growth. I mean, we've literally spent hours trying to come up with some really cool terms for this stuff. But the fact of the matter is it's so broad and so general, depending on what your agency does and what your clients need, that, it can either one, become overwhelming, or two, you just it's hard to define. So I was talking to Pete before the show and it's like, for me, these happened kind of naturally, just getting clients that were coming for website care plans, which again, another thing we talked about, people don't search for those terms necessarily, but they're looking for help with their website. They come to you for, maybe a technical or development issue. Maybe they come to you for SEO. I mean, I don't know. There's so many different reasons why the type of clients that we generally work with and our customers work with, come to their agency or their freelance or their marketing professional, whatever it is that they call them. And then, from that point on, it's like, okay, well, we can solve that. Now, can we help you in any other areas? Can we grow your business? Can we support you in other ways? And I mean, as we've talked about, there's just a billion different ways to do that. So it's kind of like we're talking about today, we're kind of thinking, how do you start figuring that out? How do you put those priorities in place, get them down on paper, however it is you work, and start to figure out what your clients actually need and what you can provide for them?
And can I just add that I kind of understand why people freak out, or why agencies, be that an agency of one right up to an agency of a large team, why they freak out about this stuff. Because the vast majority of us got into doing what we do because we liked building websites or designing websites. So actually, in an ideal world for a lot of people, that is where the job would finish. We'd design a website, we'd get it live for a company, we'd shake hands, and then we'd move on to the next website, and round we'd go. However, this isn't the episode to talk about the peaks and troughs of the feast and famine cycle. That's not the point of this. But the really what we find here is that there's a whole group of people that in order to build these recurring revenue streams as agencies themselves, as web developers themselves, they're possibly having to learn new skills or get involved in services that maybe weren't their ideal choice. Maybe it's a step away a little bit from the thing that they really liked doing, which was building websites or maintaining websites or whatever it is, whatever the thing was that got you into this in the first place. I know very few people that got into this game that have been in it, let's say, more than 5 or 6 years, that actually got into it because they liked SEO. They always like something else. And the same with I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure it's the same with care plans. Very few people got into this because they liked maintaining WordPress websites. They got into it because they liked building WordPress websites. Hey, they need maintaining, and I can do that. And it was a good fit. So this having to have these discussions, and I'll be honest, that was kind of my story. I was a developer, I worked in agencies, I was freelance for a bit, and then I had to start skilling up. But what I found was, actually, as I started getting involved in other people's businesses, I actually really enjoyed the business strategy side of things just as much as I liked the web development side of stuff. And that was purely by fluke. It wasn't an area that I was expecting to go into, but it was just a good fit for me. And that's my story essentially. But I understand why, I remember sitting in meetings having no idea what was going on or what to say next or what to recommend. Yet these people were sat around a table with me as the expert, looking for my guidance and next moves. So we've all been there. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time where sit in meetings or client calls, and I'd be like, I thought we were going to talk about what colors the buttons need to be. Why are you asking me about, call to actions and convert rate optimization? That's above my pay grade, at least at that stage, Yeah. And you kind of realize, I got to learn a lot more of this stuff.
So I think there's an element where we start with this, which is about reading your client. I know some of these discussions get confusing because you have a client, i.e. the website owner, and then they normally have clients, so your client's client.
Yeah.
But there's an element to begin with, which is where you need to understand, you need to be able to read your client, the website owner, to a degree, to actually understand. Success comes in different forms and different shapes and different sizes, and it's all relative to the person or the people in the company that you're dealing with. And sometimes you have to really dig down into, okay, so what is it that you need, and then what is it that your customers need? And actually, really, the job you're trying to do is tie those two dots together. Almost, it's like playing, join the dots. But there may be a multiple of steps that you need to do to bridge that gap, and that's kind of what we're talking about today, I guess.
That you mentioned something, and I started writing a note so I didn't forget. But what does success look like? You were asking about success, and that is a great question to ask. At this, probably one of the first questions you need to ask. And I can't remember which of the 1,000 onboarding documents or intro things that I've seen this, but the first time I saw what does success look like, I was like, that's like, it's such a simple question, but it's also so helpful and beneficial. And I'm the type of person that I need to either see or visualize what success looks like in order to figure out how to get there. And like, that's how my brain works. And that's because that's just kind of a logical way to do it. If you can't see it, you don't know how to get there. Being able to ask your clients questions like that, they'll go right off the bat. Oh, well, we need to make $200,000 this year. Okay. So their priority is, success is financial for them. Other ones might say, well, we need a stream of customers, but we need to lower our, the time that our staff is spent managing them. Okay. That's a totally different success metric. But now that we know that's what's important to you right now, all right, how do we start working towards that? So just being able to ask that question from the start and really getting through, they're not going to give you the blueprint of what they need and how to get there. So if you can uncover that, then you can start to build that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some people, it'll be completely something that's within their own business. Like, we need better financial visibility of what's happening online. Okay, fine. Then for other people, it will come down to purely sales or inquiry levels, and that will be the top and the bottom. Customers, now I'm talking about your clients, the end customer here.
I was going to say, let's call them customers.
Yeah, let's call them customers versus your client. That's a good distinction to make. So the end customer, they will normally only buy to either achieve gain or to avoid loss. They're the two reasons that people buy stuff normally. To gain something, or to avoid losing something, or to avoid harm in some way. Whereas your client, they will potentially have bought a website from you, well, ultimately for the same one of the same two reasons. It's very, very rare that you get both. It's normally one of the same two. But the thing that they might be trying to avoid could be administrative, or could be legal, or could be a whole host of things. And that obviously puts a different slant on things again.
I was going to say technical is another one too, that a lot of times, especially entrepreneurs, tend to kind of be DIYers for whatever, what I guess they just line up. So there's a lot of like business startups and stuff that always go, or they've said, sure, I've already started building my website, and, or I've done this, I've done that. And usually you find out they've done it poorly, or done it wrong, or they've spent all kinds of money on something they don't need. So again, that's, you're coming in now to go, all right, let's right this ship. Let's get it on the right track.
Yep. And, clients and customers are so switched on now that they know that websites can do stuff. Long gone are the days. I mean, when I started working in agencies back in like 2005, 2006, a lot of people came to get websites because that was the done thing to do. Oh, well, we have a website because, have you seen our website, as if it was two words. I'm getting very British about this.
They would like send out notifications and like letters in the mail, like, hey, guess what? We have a new website.
Yeah, absolutely. And they would take off their top hat. Please
Grand
see
opening.
my website. Do you get we used to have a TV show called The IT Crowd. Did you ever get that in the States?
Yeah. I've never seen it myself, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay. So, well, I won't go into it, but there is an episode which is particularly funny. It's a sitcom episode that's particularly funny where the IT manager, who knows nothing about IT, decides to convince her boss that the internet is in a box that is in his office and has a red light on it. And that is the internet. It's very funny.
I feel like that show would either be one of the funniest ones I've ever seen, or it would just traumatize me. Like, I'm not sure. It's going to go either way.
Oh, it's hilarious. I love the IT Crowd. Anyway, I can't really remember why I brought that up, but just to give you a prime example of this. So I literally am working through a project at the moment with a long-standing client of ours. And what they need is WordPress to feed their transactions into Xero, the accounting software, automatically. So we've spent the last couple of days figuring out how a WordPress to Xero integration will work for them. And success for that, that sort of stuff isn't going to make them any more money, but it's going to save them money because they're not going to have to pay the poor admin lady to do it. And she's pulling her hair out with the number of transactions as this website does. And they're an events company, so they take lots of transactions, even for a small number of products. And that's what success is. That's the next big thing for them. It's not, they've got the throughput of customers, they're happy with their organic position at the moment, but this is the help that they need. And okay, that's a bit more technical. It doesn't say, it's not to do with SEO, it's not to do with sales, it's not to do with whatever. It's purely an efficiency type thing. But at the minute, that's their biggest challenge. So yeah, we can help you with that. We'll figure it out.
I was going to say that doesn't quite, do or cover the marketing aspect that we're talking about, but it's, like you said, it's one of their big priorities. It's important for their business. And, I don't know. Are we your marketing professional? Are we your technical professional? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we're the CTOs of some of our, customers' businesses. But again, I love that stuff. It's, I've got a similar story coming from learning how to build websites and going, oh, I can do that for people, having somebody around town that needed a favor. And next thing you know, you're a web designer and, there you go, 20 years later, you're doing podcasts about it and all this fun stuff. But, we've all got into it for different ways. And I've talked about a few times over the last year, we've switched our care plans from including just the basic like WordPress edits, like you would expect. Most companies out there, most agencies are going to say, sure, we'll update your blog post, we'll whatever, we'll do these basic edits, unlimited, as many as you want. And we did that for the longest time. But what we found out is we spent more time telling people, no, that's not part of your plan, than just solving the problems for them. And so we've kind of switched to an hourly retainer, which I know people are like, oh, I don't do hourly bill and value, but we give everybody 2 hours a month and we will help you with whatever we can help you with. And it has completely changed the scope, or not the scope, but the results we're seeing. Like, just the communication has changed completely. It's like, wait, these people aren't pushing back every time. Instead, they're helping every time. And it's like, yeah, you see, that's how you can really help people's businesses, when you can I don't want to say insert yourself, but when you can become a valued partner and an expert. And, we're talking about before, your expertise, your experience may or may not always line up with what they need. So when that comes, you either go, well, all right, we're not a good fit, and now I'm comfortable telling you that. Or, like I said, we're talking about, that's when you can start going, can I white label this? Can I bring in a contractor? Can I, how do I solve this? Do I want to solve this, or do I want to give them a recommendation that there's probably somebody better fit? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about all of that.
Absolutely. And there's just as many ways that, it could be, do you just bring in a single consultant to guide that part of whatever it is that they need, right through to, do you either get a white label company in, or do you pass that client or that part of that project off to somebody else? And there's no right and wrong to that. That's entirely how you want to run your agency. I guess it sort of depends on what the request is that comes in as well, to be fair. But
yeah, I mean, we're generalizing, but we're generalizing, but I think it's safe to assume we've probably heard the same requests a dozen times every week. I mean, these aren't like totally surprising or unique, but then you do get a random one where you're like, no, I can't do that. We're not doing that. I won't even recommend that you do that with anybody, let alone even if you want to throw money at me. No.
So let's just bring then the whole marketing angle maybe back into the crosshairs a bit here, and let's now sort of drill down into that, because you're right, we could go on about lots of different random stuff, which could be very entertaining. I agree, but possibly isn't going to be a whole lot valuable to anybody that's listening. So, so when let's as I say, focus on the marketing piece, because that's ultimately what's going to demonstrate a financial return on investment back to your client from the fee that they're paying you. So one thing that I do, which I've always done this, but I've been told that this is unique. So maybe I shouldn't mention it on a podcast that's going out globally. But hey, I'm going to anyway, because that's just a nice kind of generous guy that I am, and Kyle Van Dusen will attribute that. Has to get a shout out in somewhere, so maybe
Ding!
We'll put it
there we go.
Yeah. So
that was our Kyle counter.
So what I do is, when I'm talking with a client, a new client, an existing client, we're talking about retained services, I ask them whether their biggest revenue generator is the thing that they need the help with their marketing with. Because let me put it this way. We work with a number of educational institutions. Now, in the UK, it's kind of similar in the US. Like Harvard is renowned for law, and I can't think of another one, but don't know my US universities that well. But in the UK, particular universities are known for particular things. In Sheffield, where I live, medicine and architecture. They're two big things that happen here, and English language. So what
English.
Well, the clue's in the name. Anyway, let's gloss over that. When I'm working with those universities, and this is the same working with other, I'm not saying I've only found this in universities, this is where kind of it came from, is those universities, certain things sell themselves. Sheffield doesn't need help selling its English language courses. Every year it's oversubscribed and it's turning students away. However, it's policing, master's course to get your sergeant whatever ship. they really struggle to fill that thing every year. So there's absolutely no point in me or them spending the time or money or effort trying to market something that sells itself. So this is what clients have told me is unique, is that I've been to them and said, so, where are we on this scale? Some customers, move it out of a university context here, where you've maybe got a product or a service that you can scale up or down. Universities normally have a maximum capacity. But you go to a business and you say, right, what's your main thing? And does that make you the most money? And if they say yes, the next question is, okay, so is the purpose of this marketing plan, this marketing journey we're going to go on together, is the purpose to sell that more and more and more to get you more revenue through? Or will that take care of itself? And is what we're going to take care of, is it this other stuff over here, which are like your fledgling products, because they're all struggling for limelight in the shadow of this big thing that kind of sells itself over here. And that can be a product, it can be a service, it can be an inquiry, it can be whatever it is. But where are we on this journey? And actually that gives you just that, where, business owners often come into this thing thinking, oh, well, we just need more of everything. Well, that's not going to help you determine any priorities. You need to understand what's the foot you're starting on, and ultimately where does that success line come? Because if they're wanting me to sell this big thing and I go and sell 100,000 of these things over here, they can still say that this thing's been a failure because I didn't sell one of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I don't know if, as I say, I don't know if you find that unique, but I've been told it's unique. It just seems like it's logic to me.
Yeah, I know, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, it is totally logical, but it's funny. You started talking about that story, and I was like, "This is a really smart way to look at it," and it totally reminded me of this. Maybe like a month ago, I was having a conversation with a client, a client, not an agency, and they build custom pools, and hire around these. I don't know. They take 4 to 6 weeks. The big money. I mean, tons and tons of money. One of my friends, I met them through one of my friends that just paid them to build a pool, and it's amazing. So I'm like, this is cool. And so we built their website. And through talking with them and stuff, and we're learning that, one, I'm not even sure they needed a website. They're booked out a year for pool installs and builds or whatever like that. It was over a year. I think it was 14 months, 15 months or something like that. And so, we start talking, and I go, so how many more pools do you want to, sell this year? And they said, oh, we don't want to sell anymore, but we can. And that's really not a problem. So, okay, so why are we having this conversation? And they just wanted to get their face out there. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. And so we just kind of built like a brochure style website for them. And then they gave me their list of services. And we found out that they have like a whole nother division of doing pool cleaning. Mm-hmm. And so I started talking with them at our next meeting. And I go, tell me more about the pool cleaning. Do we need like a dedicated page for that, or is it something you just kind of only do for the pools you build? Said, oh, no. We'll clean anything. And no, it's actually great. And they were telling me about this guy Bob in a company that's like runs the whole thing. They've got a whole nother department they'd never mentioned really as like a legitimate department. And it turns out it's infinitely scalable. They bring in contractors or they hire people, and obviously it's, I don't know, a couple $100 a month or something like that, but it's their recurring revenue.
Well, that's it.
Wait a second. Why aren't we focusing on this? Yes, they still need to sell pools, but they're going to sell pools no matter what. They have no problem selling pools. So sure, that's a big part of the website, but we start putting on this, and it's, I don't know how many they've got. It's only been up for like 6 weeks now, but they're very happy with this new kind of interest and, advertising this other service. It's going to bring them a whole nother, level of income for that side of things.
Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? It's you hit the nail on the head. That's their recurring revenue. What would you rather have? A $10,000 sale now for a pool, or $200 for the next goodness knows how many years? It's just it doesn't make it's their recurring revenue.
It's basically, I don't know, pure profit, but there's no cost or big expenses to go into it. No proposals and planning and budgets, and I mean, I don't know how they deal with that much money flowing back and forth, and it's easy money for them. They love it, and and then, I mean, I'm not going to go into all the things we were talking about, but we started talking about the trucks that they use and what kind of graphics and marketing. I'm not a brander, but you know what? Just being in this industry long enough, we start figuring out this stuff. And all they needed was somebody with a little bit more experience in this side of things to have a conversation with them. And, boom, we've kind of uncovered their strategy for the next couple of years.
But the other thing that you can do in that scenario is you can be the connector. So yeah, you're not a brand guy, but I mean, we've worked together. I'm not a brand guy either, for that matter. So I'm not going to give branding advice on here. But I know that I know enough to ask the intelligent questions so that I can then speak to a branding person or get a designer involved, relay that on, and then either make the connection, do it white label, whatever it might be, and bring a solution to it, even though it might not be my solution. So sometimes it's just being able to think those 2 or 3 stages ahead of you and or ahead of the client, ask the intelligent questions, and then come back with the intelligent solution. You only have to do that 2 or 3 times, and you will have earned your role as the trusted advisor or marketing partner or whatever it is that that really cements you into that client's customer life cycle.
Yeah, like for that example, that was 2 Zoom meetings, and the first one was like an introduction call, and just thinking out loud, starting to think about different options. And next thing you know, you've kind of opened up another can of worms that can help somebody in a way that they didn't realize. It was pretty cool.
Okay, so based on the fact that we've figured out what the big thing is that we're marketing, we've figured out what success is going to look like for this thing. Where do we go next? What's the next step in identifying some priorities?
Well, I mean, I could think of some of the way to start figuring out the results, I mean, we could start talking about, obviously if they need traffic, if they need customers, right, you're going to be working SEO. You probably want to be publishing some content. You want to be doing things that get the traffic to their websites. It's more than just kind of outside the box strategy and thinking. You can start to look at what actually needs to go in your area of expertise.
Well, so I put a piece in before that. That's a bit of a leading question.
To tell me more.
So the other thing that I like to figure out, which can highlight where is to see if they've got problems in other areas. So I ask a business to explain to me what their current marketing workflow looks like. So what's their pipeline like? How many inquiries have they had in the last 3 months? I don't know. You pick a time frame. Has that gone up or down? Why? How many orders have they had off that? Has that percentage gone up or down? Because ultimately, what you're trying to do is figure out if there's a problem that's prohibiting the sale. That's if they're working an e-commerce site, they're not getting sales. Okay, that's probably something on the website that's not working. It'll be a tech issue or a dev issue or a broken link or something. Payment integration not working. I don't know. It could be anything. But you can find out then that it's a technical issue that, right, well, it doesn't matter how much traffic or marketing or whatever we throw at this. If that bit doesn't work, you're still not going to make any sales. Maybe they've got a really obnoxious sales guy on the phone that starts swearing at everybody the minute that he picks up the phone. And, if they're getting inquiries in and actually the problem is sat on the phone, it doesn't matter how many how much traffic, how many leads you give him, he's going to just swear more because he's got more to deal with. So you might need to that's an extreme example. That's never happened. I'm just using it as a daft example, but it's ideally you need to understand if there are any issues that would stop a seamless customer journey right from inquiry all the way through to delivery. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and work in offices and hear guys on the phone or this, that, and the other, but normally a business owner will be able to if you're having an honest discussion with them, will be able to highlight where there are potentially some flags that you might need to investigate first. And only then would I then start looking at the outbound stuff.
Interesting. It's again, it's kind of like the last one. It's kind of almost kind of self-explanatory, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty obvious. But if you don't stop and look at those things, you can completely miss them and put all your efforts in the wrong area. Yeah. Your example of a grumpy sales guy. I was thinking, well, it's the perfect metaphor for a bad website too, or, or a website that's not functioning, or again, I'm like Mr. Technical. So I'm always thinking about that. Right. And so sometimes you'll have a conversation with somebody and you'll dig in and you'll start reviewing their website and you go, oh, there's this problem, there's that problem, but is that really what's slowing them down? And then you find out, no, it's the grumpy sales guy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I mean, the answer to that, you're dead right. The answer to that could be, well, our website's just dated. We look dated compared to our competition. Customers are going elsewhere because they just don't trust the way that we appear online. Okay, that's fine. That's still a problem that needs to be fixed. There's absolutely no point driving traffic to your old site if it's going to make you look dated. Let's get your new site sorted first, get that live, and then seamlessly roll into a traffic generation program. That would be the right thing to do. That's how you figure out the priorities, the first priorities at least, for that client. So it's the difficulty is, and I think I've said this on the show before. The difficulty is that clients, whether you like it or not, whether you might be the person that just wants to design, build the website, and do the maintenance plan afterwards because you're a techie and that's the stuff that you like doing. But the difficulty you've got is that customers come to you and see you as the open quotes digital marketing expert, close quotes. And they are not coming necessarily just for a website and somebody to look after their plugins, but they might not even know that they need somebody to look after their plugins. So they're not even just coming looking for a website. They're coming to this making an investment in their business to make stuff better, whatever that stuff is. And it's kind of your job to figure out what that stuff is and how it needs fixing and in what order it needs to be fixed. And that becomes your plan for to get out the gate. And if you can have that discussion, then you're absolutely fine.
Yeah. And if it's your zone, like, if it's the website, if it's the SEO, if it's your zone of expertise, then feel confident in that, confident in your experience and your ability to put these things in place. And, I've struggled at times with feeling confident going into a business and telling them something, or recommending something, because they're the ones with the big fancy offices. I work in my bedroom, like often, like you don't always feel like you're at the same level. So it's tough, but at the same time, if they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't be calling me for a new website or for SEO or whatever it is to help solve those problems. So, we are uniquely positioned to help with what we are qualified and experienced in, and to make those like connections or recommendations, or, we've got more experience in this stuff than they do most of the time. More often, not all of your clients are completely fresh to all this stuff. So, we have, I guess, a lot of responsibility. You're not obviously always legally obligated or contractually obligated, but still, when people are trusting you to come into their business at whatever level, you've got some, you owe them something.
Absolutely. So that's my approach to it, and that's where I start, and then from there, then you can start looking at data and start figuring out, okay, so this is the plan. This is where we go. So if we're going to be looking at SEO, this is where the bulk of the traffic is. These are the competition levels. These are the pages we need to create. These are the cornerstone pages or the pillar pages, which are going to take a while to rank for. But if we can get those in place, we can then start creating cluster content around them to support them, and that's that's the pieces of the jigsaw start to emerge from that point.
Yeah. And I know that I think I can talk about a little bit, but with our managed plans that we've been working, we're setting 90-day quarterly kind of check-in strategy call sessions, whatever you want to refer to them as. And we're looking at those, that schedule to kind of go, all right, what's the priorities for the next couple months? What can we put in place? What can, what's the next several months going to look like? And I think that's a good kind of, schedule to get into. Some people want to have a weekly call and strategy session. You're never going to get going. You're never going to get the ball rolling if you're just changing it every week. But there's a lot to be said to kind of sitting down, reviewing things and going, all right, what's our next priority? What are we going to be tackling next? Or what are we going to improve next? Or, take it to the next level. It's not always something new or out of the blue. So do you do that more frequently in your experience, or sorry?
No. So I normally, in all honesty, with our managed plans, that's exactly how we're running it. With the clients in my agency, particularly clients that I know a bit more, I try and set kind of annual goals, but then we have quarterly check-ins. So just to see how we are on progress to those goals. And that sets quite a nice rhythm to things. It also, I find that the advantage of setting an annual goal is, when I say this, it's going to sound purely selfish, and I don't really mean it to be like that, but it helps cement the fact that I'm working with them for the next year. This is something we are doing together. Now, I'm also creating a rod for my own back, because if we don't hit the target, then of course they can very easily point the finger back at me. But so you got to be a bit careful about the targets that you set. They've got to be realistic. They should be. If you're googling this, Google the term stretch goals. That's what they really should be. So take something that's easily achievable and add either 10, 15, or 20%, depending on how challenging what you think you can stretch to. But that would be. That's the way I run them. And then, as I say, we then have quarterly check-ins, which is also great because it means that the key stakeholders don't need to attend a meeting every month. Like working with a university, life doesn't change that quickly in a university. If we had a meeting every month, it's exactly what you were saying about having a weekly call. Stuff had changed too frequently because not enough water's gone under the bridge in order to demonstrate a return. So the quarterly thing does seem to be a good rhythm for that as kind of a check-in. And then of course I have notes and reminders set so that on like the third quarter, when we're coming up to like the annual review, we're mentioning that to say, right, so next time this is what we need in place, and you're almost planning the next year before you come to the end of this one. And again, it's just a means of demonstrating that we are still working on this together. We are being proactive to you as if we were your in-house team, which is exactly what you were saying earlier.
I like that. And I think setting those kind of even longer term goals and expectations, this sounds kind of selfish and manipulative. I don't mean it that way at all, but it also kind of locks you in there. I mean, you're not locked in there by any means. If you don't perform, they're going to kick your butt out, and they should. But that does kind of say, like you said, yeah, I'm here for the long term. We're going to be doing this. So you could definitely argue that there's some kind of retention to being able to even stretch things out farther. And again, I don't mean that from a like manipulative, let's set the goal really far away so we never get there. That's not the case. But
no,
the long-term growth strategies, I mean, that's a term we're always using. And the only way to do that is to be in there long-term. And I was going to say full time, but it's not quite the term, but you know what I mean? Working with them ongoing.
But you make a good point there, but it actually helps alleviate some pressure, but particularly as you're starting with a client. The issue that you've got with a new client is that they don't just see a monthly bill. What they see is an annual fee. So if you're charging them $2,000 a month, they're instantly, the first couple of payments, it feels like they're paying a $24,000 bill, and because of that, they can expect blood. And you can't give it to them. It can't work that way, because if you over-service too much at that point, I'm not saying that you shouldn't over-service a client at the beginning to delight them. You shouldn't. I'm also not saying you shouldn't find some low-hanging fruit to demonstrate a positive return quite quickly. They're good things to do, but you've got to do them within reason, because if you over-service too much to begin with, and the client gets used to that level of service, then you can never back off. You can never return to what you would have classed as the open quotes normal level of service. So you've got to be really careful about how you manage that, and actually saying right from the outset, look, this is the big goal. This is the 12-monther that we're going for. We're going to break it down into quarters. We know that quarter 3 has the summer in it, so that's always going to be a bit hit and miss. So that one's not going to be quite an equal quarter. So we're figuring it out. This is what we're into, and all of a sudden you alleviate that pressure. You're no longer talking about, okay, so what am I delivering for the next meeting? You're talking about, right, so what's the big thing? What are the 12 like daisy hops that we need to get there, with like 3 lily pads in the middle. And that's the, as I say, it sounds selfish, but it isn't. It's just trying to be more effective and more efficient and take a bit of stress off you at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned low-hanging fruit, and I'm afraid that this might be slightly contradictory to some of the things you were saying, but again, from the technical side of things, I love finding those low-hanging fruits because you can show like huge wins really fast. But this is something we've literally had a problem with where, we've gone in and I'm specifically referring to like on-page and technical health stuff, not to get like really into it, but we've gone in and like cleaned up a website and, like taken its site health from like 30 to like 95% or something like that, and literally like tripled the traffic and everything in 1 month, just because there were so many problems. Like the traffic was there, it's just it was never able to reach the website because of all the problems. And we've done that in like month 1 and 2 before, and people are like, holy moly, that's amazing, thanks, bye, and they've left because they're like, we're done, like we just got so much. And then on the other side, like flip side of that too, is you can do all of that, and then on like month 2 or 3 you don't get that same bump, or you can't do that every month. You can only do that from the beginning when you've got a steaming pile to work with at the beginning. So the same thing is it's like, darn, we like did everything in the first month, and now what do we do? That's where the planning and the strategy and understanding what this is and communicating with the client comes into play. We need to be able to express and explain this and why this happened, and also go, don't expect this, this exact metric to double next month again and the month after that. It ain't going to happen from just that every month. That's why we're going to strategize. That's why we're going to plan. That's why we're going to keep growing every quarter, year, however long we're going there.
We literally had an agency owner, a new agency owner to us, reach out to us in the last month. Nick, if you're listening, I'm not going to give you surname, obviously, but Nick, if you're listening, it's great to meet you. We had he reached out to us because he wants to start offering some white label SEO. He wants to start offering SEO using us as a white label service. And he had that was his exact question. It's like, how do you handle the tech cleanup stuff? Because if you do all that right at the start, firstly, month 1 does that, you're going to do so much work in month 1 that how do you do anything else? And, once it's done, how does that appear to the client and this, that, and the other? And, we worked through some options together and basically said, look, your options are you either do the tech stuff as a one-off process to begin with, so it's not part of the monthly retainer. It's clearly not part of that monthly rhythm that you're going to get into, or you take the hit on it as an agency and deal with it in-house and take the flak if the flak comes. Or you slow the tech stuff down so you don't deliver it all in 1 month. You actually specifically only do half of it or a third of it in month 1, then a third in month 2, then a third in month 3 to get it done. Although there's possibly a moral issue with that, because anything else you try, if that tech stuff's not correct, anything else you try in that interim period is only going to have limited benefit because the tech health isn't right.
Yeah.
And we worked through this together, and Nick came to the conclusion that actually having it as a one-off process, as like a, they would do their discovery, they would then do their tech cleanup, then they would worry about getting into monthly SEO marketing, content marketing.
That's good. I couldn't myself honestly like stretch that out unless it was so much work that it needed to. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be 40 hours of cleanup, and sure, we can do this month, but it's going to cost you this much money. All right, let's stretch it over 3 months. But like, if you're able to go in and fix that up in 1 month and start getting the results, that's just morally what I want to do, like you said. So that's probably the better way to go about it. But then at the same time, if I got to get my train of thought here on this one, but,
well, let me just jump in with an example here. So I'll bail you out, so you don't have to edit this out the show. Think of it this way: if you had to stand in a court of law because you hadn't done the tech stuff properly or fully, but you had advised on something else, to maybe some content marketing or some link building or whatever it might be, and you'd action that first, and then a judge said to you, or a lawyer said to you in the court, did you know that you were doing that and that site wasn't fit for purpose, and you had to turn around and say, yes, my lord, then actually, that is that the way you want to approach this? Because getting the site health right, this only really applies to site health, but getting the site health right is exactly that. You can have the best piece of content on the internet, but if you're about a particular topic, but if your site health is only 35%, Google will look at it and will say, it's a great piece of content on a website with a health of 35%. And everything comes with the on a website with 35%, on a website with 35%.
And all the competitors are at 90%. So who's going to win?
Who's going to win? So you have to get it right first. And as you say, there might be budget constraints. This is where it all comes contextual to what you've got, what you inherit, what you've built. I mean, there's another thing, whenever very few people, maybe again, this makes me weird. I always run health audits on sites we've just built. I also run health audits on sites that we're replacing, so that I know that what we're pushing online is better than what the client arrived with us with. Because again, that comes down to the point. You are the web professional. They are coming to you for the expertise. There's absolutely their website might look like a crock of shit to begin with, but if it's got a site health of 98% and you go and push something that's only got 75, they're going to see a drop in rankings. Everybody's going to see the Google dance. I'm not talking about that. But as it settles, they will see a drop in rankings. Yeah. And that comes down to what you have done. And I don't want that on my conscience.
I think you read my mind, because you really helped circle this right back to what I was trying to get at a minute ago. And, we're talking about doing these cleanups and stuff like that. And I think this is really huge. We're kind of getting away from the topic, but I feel like it's really important to mention. I see this so often that when you as a freelancer or your agency or whatever has built a website, I believe you are responsible for that SEO tech setup, that cleanup. If you run a site, like you mentioned, if you run an audit and the site health is 50%, I'm sorry, but that's your fault. That's your responsibility to get that to an acceptable level. If you're building a website for somebody, whether or not you've sold them SEO or whatever, it needs to be at least at the basic bare minimum level. And the same thing you mentioned about rebuilding sites. I have seen so many times where an agency has got a client, they've had a website, it's old. Yes, it definitely needs to be rebuilt. And they've maybe done a nice facelift. It looks a lot better. It's actually worse off afterwards because they didn't look at any of that stuff. They didn't audit anything. They didn't bring over the content. They lost pages, the heading structure. There's so many different things that happen. And I see this happen so frequently. So I'm just telling you, from one agency owner as another, if you're building websites, you need to make sure that those are up to speed, or you need to prepare that when that client's ready for SEO, you're going to be on the hook to get that fixed up. I don't think it's right to charge a client to fix up their SEO or to fix up their technical health if you've just built a website semi-recently.
You know what? So a few months ago, I released a course, WordPress SEO Fundamentals. It's still on the production pre-sale. If anybody fancies it, just Google it, you'll find it. One of the modules is about SEO. Well, is about sending site live. And I did a checklist for a site live, for a site launch, and it runs to nearly 3 sides of A4. I've loaded it up in Google Docs so I could say, hey, it's got this many boxes on it. I can't count them up fast enough. It's literally 3 sides of A4. So if you want the checklist, you've got to buy the course. The course is over at petereverett.com, and as I say, Google WordPress SEO Fundamentals, you'll find it. But people so overlook, and because ultimately that's when a lot of I've got the list open in front of me here. A lot of it is run an SEO health check, is configure your 301s, make sure that your SSL certificate works. Some of them are for pre-live, some of them are during live, and some of them are post-live, granted. But yeah, make sure that you've unticked the disallow search engines box in the site settings, all that kind of stuff. That's all in there, and it's the kind of thing that it's not sexy kind of work. I'm not saying it's what I get up, drives me to get out. It's
not even brag worthy. You can't even brag to your client, hey, check this out, I fixed all your headings. They're like, what? What the hell? About? I don't care.
But on the same note, if the client finds out you broke all their headings, who do you think they're going to go after?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so, let's be frank. There are people out there that just scan websites, run SEO reports, and email them. Go, hey, did you know you had problems? God, you're gonna feel real stupid if you launch a new website and then what's that one name? There's a one guy like Steve Jones or Mike Jones or something that emails everybody and says it's just a bot, but you know what I mean? Hey, we've got a SEO report, and I mean, how embarrassed are you gonna be if all of a sudden they find out that everything just tanked because you just rebuilt their website with some fancy theme template or something like that?
Yeah. So. Anyhow, that's but yeah, you're dead right. It's the kind of thing I fully agree. It is our responsibility as the web professionals to make sure we're getting that stuff right. If you bought a car, it can look like $1 million, but if you can't drive it off the forecourt because the engine's broke, you wouldn't pay for it.
Yeah. And I mean, even a lot of used cars, they have some sort of used warranty, maybe 30 days or 90 days or something when you buy them. And does the website have warranty? It depends on kind of how you're framing all of that and your ongoing service and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I feel bad every time I've had to tell somebody, and I've told them many times, like, I think this is on you. Yeah. Sorry. They're like, oh, let me see if the client wants to pay for it. I'm like, no. This is your fault.
This website's been live 2 weeks and you've done this to it, and you should probably fix it. Yeah, I get it.
Not trying to shame you, but that's just something you got to accept,
So anyhow, I think, I hope people have found that there's a few ways to figure out the priorities that are going to move the needle for your client off the back of this.
There's a lot of ways. So. Hopefully we talked about enough of them to give you enough to overload your brain for the next week until you get another chance to listen to us. But
well, I mean, I'm aware we've been talking for coming up to 51 minutes, and short of the French lesson that started, it's kind of all been relatively serious this time, I think. So it's I don't want to lose you, dear listener, because the other one might leave as well, and then there's nobody listening to us.
well, it's a bit of a broad topic. I don't know if it's sexy or not, but I think these are the type of things that when you start to kind of understand and just put into your psyche or whatever, I think you start to run your business a little bit differently, and you start to also work with your clients a bit differently, and for the better, obviously. And we just keep learning and growing and working with our clients. And what talking about these growth plans specifically, what you start planning in the first quarterly session with somebody is not going to be the same in a year or 2 or 3, because in this type of relationship, you're able to continually evolve and see their problems and their issues and help fix them and steer them in the right direction. And if you can keep your clients long-term like this, I mean, you and I have had clients that we've had since before we ever started working together, almost 5 years ago or something like that. We've got agencies that have the same clients with SEO Hive from day one, 4 or 5 years ago. And that's what they do. They're there, and they don't just, do the same thing every month. They plan, they strategize. They're their partner. They're as much an employee in their business as they are, their own business sometimes. And I think that's how you can continue to support your customers, grow, and scale both your agency and their businesses as well.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can check out the show notes at seohive.co or wherever it is. And we hope to see you in the next episode.
The WP SEO Show is brought to you by SEO Hive, your agency's proactive white label SEO partner. We understand that finding a reliable SEO supplier is key to ensuring you build stable monthly recurring revenue into your digital agency. At SEO Hive, we have a suite of products that will help you sell, scale and deliver your monthly SEO retainers, from our Scout reports and one-off technical boosters, to our flagship local SEO and honeypot plans, all of which have clear pricing and monthly deliverables. If you want to explore how SEO Hive can help your agency deliver high-quality and reliable SEO agreements for your clients, you can find more information at seohive.co and schedule a call to discuss the next steps.